Welcome to the second day of AirWorks 2020. We're excited that even though our new remote format takes a little getting used to, it's opening up DJI's annual industry update to voices from all around the world. Wherever you're watching from, and whatever time zone you're in, we're glad to have you here. You heard yesterday about our development roadmap for commercial drones and how DJI is supporting the stakeholders in our growing industry. And I know from the comments we've seen that yesterday's product announcements from FLIR and LiveVox have sparked a lot of imaginative ideas about new capabilities that you can have. Today, we want to talk about what's happening right now, how drones are helping the world face some of the unprecedented challenges of this crazy year. As an industry, we've responded individually and we've responded collectively, and I think we can all be proud. The spirit of innovation and adaptation that has always driven the drone industry is exactly what we need when a global pandemic is turning the world upside down. Of course, if you're involved with drones, you already know that a positive and disruptive technology is going to shine in moments of turmoil. We all know this. The benefits of drones are most visible during the most challenging times, when a child is lost in the woods, or an isolated family member needs a no-contact delivery. A drone is exactly the solution they need in the moment. When a wildfire or hurricane destroys communities, the drones that help search for survivors, survey the damage, and map a path to recovery are a welcome sight in the skies. And we've seen that same spirit in action during this global pandemic. We should all be proud of how our industry and our technology rose to the challenge of COVID-19. We saw across the globe pilots deploy drone technology to deliver medicine, set up test sites, and secure communities, as well as to perform other tasks like inspecting infrastructure and monitoring conditions while keeping people safely distant. This is happening organically across the entire drone community, with civil and commercial organizations rising to the challenge. You're speeding up plans to deploy drone technology, you're experimenting with new tasks for drones, and you're even testing new payloads and features that can make drones an ever more practical tool. Today, we're going to focus on the experiences and lessons from two different organizations that were forward-thinking even before the pandemic hit. They're leaders in adapting new technology for their tasks, and that made them nimble leaders in adapting so they can thrive in their missions in a newly socially distanced world. You're going to hear from the leaders behind the drone operations of the Southern Manatee Fire and Rescue District, which serves 60,000 residents on Florida's Gulf Coast, as well as Shell, the global energy firm that has pioneered drone use at Deer Park, a 2,300-acre refinery and chemical plant outside of Houston. They have important lessons that apply not just to their industries, but to every organization that understands the potential of drones and wants to turn it into action. To begin the day, I want to introduce Romeo Derscher, DJI's Senior Director of Public Safety Integration, to share more about how public safety organizations that have been adapting drone technology came together to assist communities in combating COVID-19.
I personally have seen the tremendous impact drones can have during and after a natural disaster. In 2017, Hurricane Harvey was really one of the first times that the drone became that unsung hero. Drones were used to look for stranded individuals on top of their roofs, for inspection and to do damage assessments. Just a few months after that, I myself deployed to Santa Rosa, California, to one of the largest wildfires at the time here in California. We were less than a handful of different UAV teams composed out of law enforcement and fire departments. It was very evident that training and standardization is the key for a very effective deployment. And then 9 months later, we again deployed to a wildfire, this time in Redding, California. There, we utilized DJI's Aeroscope to not only track our drones, but to help integrate them into the crewed aircraft environment, and that was a big step forward. 3 months after that, we deployed to Paradise, California. And that time, this was the most destructive wildfire in California's history. 85 lives were lost, over 19,000 structures destroyed. This time we were 16 teams comprised out of law enforcement and fire department UAV members. We did over 500 flights, mapping 17,000 acres of the city of Paradise. It took over 70,000 images to create this large-scale map. Every day, we drove the data down to San Francisco to Drone Deploy's headquarters and started processing that amount of data right there and then. In addition, we did 360-degree images and georeferenced videos for situational awareness. All that data within 72 hours was made available to the county's website and integrated into their GIS model so that residents for the first time could see what their neighborhoods, what their homes looked like. To date, almost 2 years later, that data is still actively being used for homeowner insurance claims for rebuilding purposes, and that's a tremendous value. These hands-on deployment experiences drove us at DJI to create the Disaster Relief Program, a program of vetted public safety departments and entities across the United States that can deploy quickly to a regionalized disaster. We wanted to not only support with hardware, but also with manpower, expertise, and back-end repair support. By getting resources to where they are needed quickly, we can positively impact the outcome. At AirWorks 2019, I had the privilege to announce our DJI Disaster Relief Program, and it was really well received in the public safety community. A few months later, on March 4th, 2020, Exxon's 8 team utilized drones to not only look for missing citizens, but to also get to these hard-to-reach areas and do damage assessment on private as well as commercial properties. Thanks to Exxon's 8 certification and the partnership with DJI, the team was able to deploy over 30 missions, spent 26 hours up in the air, collecting over 10,000 images and videos for 2D and 3D reconstruction. All that acquired data was hosted on the instance of Exxon Evidence, and thanks to the DJI Qualified Entities program, the platforms were able to be unlocked to fly in that temporary flight restriction environment. Less than 2 weeks after the initial disaster relief program activation, with COVID-19 spreading now here in North America, we decided to scale up this program to cover the entire United States. We made that announcement on March 25th, and within only a couple of days, retired Fire Chief Wayne Baker and I started to review applications from all over. We went through every single application, reviewed it, discussed it, and made sure that the drones would help not only the department but their citizens as well. Ultimately, we wanted to support as many departments as we could, ending up with 45 departments across 22 states giving out 100 drones. But not only that, we asked departments to do the pay-it-forward approach and share the lessons learned with departments that may not have the same kind of understanding, so that they did not have to reinvent the wheel. As public safety always does, they utilize new technologies in ways we don't even imagine. And same here. We had departments create very rudimentary drop and delivery mechanisms made out of regular office items so that they could deliver gloves, masks, or medication to the front porch of an infected home. Departments like Tulsa Fire, Menlo Park Fire Protection District, and Chula Vista Police utilized the drone technology to help an at-risk population, the homeless people. They used the speaker on a drone to share very important information, to alert them of available medical checkup areas and stations, to pick up water, health kits, and also provide helpful information about to protect themselves. That allowed officers to keep not only social distance, but not have to walk through very difficult terrain and potentially injure themselves. We saw departments utilize drones for pre-planning purposes of COVID-19 test sites to learn about traffic patterns, walk-up lines, and then during testing hours, get the aerial live view to count vehicles and individuals on the ground, as well as provide them with wait time information through the speaker on the drone. Fremont Fire did a fantastic job doing all of that. Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office, they created an orthomosaic map of a future field hospital. On the data set, they pinpointed the ingress and egress points, as well as documented the setup. Tremendously helpful information. And we saw Wyckoff Police Department utilize the drones in a very different way. They would go to people's homes where kids were celebrating a birthday, fly the drone on the front yard with the speaker on it, and sing happy birthday to the child. That's true community building and made a lasting impression during a very difficult and trying time. As the last part of our disaster relief program, we really wanted to bring all the lessons learned together in a document to help all public safety agencies across to hopefully prepare them for future events. Today, we are releasing the DJI COVID-19 Disaster Response document. This white paper is now available on the DJI Enterprise website, as well as on the AirWorks Slack community channel. In addition to our efforts with critical operations, we have continued to focus on hardware development and improving the capabilities to public safety. In May, we announced the Matrice 300 RTK with its accompanying H20 series payload. This is really a fantastic new platform with very new capabilities, helping public safety during their crucial operations. Some of the new features are the integrated thermal imager, the laser range finder, and the ability to do pinpoints and set pins. To talk more about the capabilities of the Matrice 300 RTK, I am delighted to be joined by Rich Gatanis, firefighter and UAS coordinator at Southern Manatee Fire Rescue.
Thank you, Romeo. Hello from Southwest Florida. My name is Rich Gatanis. I'm a firefighter and the UAS coordinator here at Southern Manatee Fire Rescue, which is located in Manatee County, Florida, just south of the city of Tampa. I'm humbled and excited to be a part of the first ever Virtual AirWorks Conference 2020. Southern Manatee's Hazardous Materials team has been leading the way in how drones are used in hazmat and special operations response, and I'm happy to join Romeo today to share our unique drone journey. As early adopters of drone technology, we chose to lead from the front. Our mission has been to find ways to save money and to protect our personnel and citizens with drone technology. With the addition of our first DJI Inspire 1 to the team back in 2015, we began to test the limitations of these systems. Testing our equipment is a critical part of the hazmat response, as it ensures everything works out when we are needed most. A drone in a hazardous cloud could spell disaster should the aircraft ignite a flammable atmosphere. If that were the case, our program would be dead before we left the ground. As confident as we were in our research, we tested our theories. We created explosive tests to determine if these systems could be flown in these hazardous atmospheres. I encourage you to check out our test results on our YouTube channel, SMFR 911. Southern Manatee's drive to continue to find new ways to advance drone technology has helped us develop ways to deliver gas, chemical, and radiation detection devices using systems like the DJI Matrice and Inspire platforms. As a consequence of utilizing drones for hazardous materials response, the potential of contamination now becomes an issue. Should our drones become contaminated during a hazmat incident, we needed a solution. So in early 2019, we began working with industry leaders to develop the first ever drone decontamination kit. This concept has revolutionized how drones are perceived in hazmat response ever since. The partnership between Southern Manatee Fire Rescue and DJI has helped guide the development of the amazing systems and payloads we're seeing today. Our feedback as end users is critical to these systems being able to perform the tasks asked of them in difficult locations and under dangerous circumstances. The introduction of the Matrice 300 is the culmination of that relationship. The M300 is built for hazmat response, which I will be discussing more in depth in our upcoming presentation with Chris Gould, who is a battalion chief with Southern Manatee Fire Rescue and is also the hazardous materials coordinator for Manatee County. I think it goes without saying that drone technology is changing the landscape of emergency response. As often as drones are credited with finding missing persons or delivering life-saving equipment to stranded victims, I believe the dull, dirty, and dangerous aspects that unmanned systems fulfill are the unsung heroes of drone-augmented emergency response.
Thanks, Rich, from Southern Manatee Fire Rescue. That team really has been leading the hazardous material area for quite some time and showcased how drones can help during those incidents. And together we have done a variety of different tests, like the flammability test on the Matrice 200, as well as getting a better understanding on the decontamination process on drones. A big thank you to Southern Manatee Fire Rescue. Although drones are deployed every day on life-saving missions, it's easy for the public to dismiss this technology because drones operate on the back end of a mission. So we wanted to bring a tool to make it more visual, how drones are really helping, how they're impacting across the globe. Therefore, just a few weeks ago, we announced the DJI Life Rescued Map. I want to elaborate on Rich's last point a little bit more. Drones are that unsung hero, but it goes beyond just COVID-19 responses. To do so, we wanted to find a way to highlight how drones are helping and impacting the communities across the world. This map not only highlights how professional entities such as search and rescue teams, law enforcement departments, and fire departments are utilizing drones for rescuing individuals, but a surprisingly high amount of hobbyists happen to be in close proximity, having their drones with them and assisting those departments. Those drones were purchased for hobbyist reasons, to have fun, to gather beautiful pictures and fun videos, and now they're being utilized to potentially help rescue a life. Today, we count over 430 verified life rescued in over 244 incidents across 28 countries. The rescue of a life has an emotional and economical impact. But the untold story really are the passive lives saved. Our first responders that we can keep more safe by providing incident commanders with better and faster data so that they can make better and faster decisions, just like we saw at the Notre Dame fire in Paris in April of 2019. Or during a search and rescue operation, sending the drone to a dangerous area like a cliff instead of sending ground troops. Those are extremely beneficial benefits because if we can mitigate the risks to our first responders, if we can decrease the chance of injury, we keep them more effective, more efficient, which all has a direct impact on the cost to a city, a county, ultimately also on our taxes. I would like to share two recent rescue stories. And since I'm coming to you from California, I decided to pick two stories from the Golden State. The first one is from Orange, California, where in May 20, 68-year-old Becky Dominguez and her dog Buddy went out for a walk. They didn't return for several hours, so her worried brother called 911. The Orange Police Department went to location, and because they didn't have access to their helicopter, they deployed the Phantom 4 drone. It didn't take them long to spot Becky laying on the ground with her dog next to her. She had tripped and fallen and was disoriented, looking up at the drone, thinking to herself, "I wonder who they are looking for." Officers were guided by drone to Becky and rescued her and little Buddy, and both are well today. The second one is from Northern California, Antioch to be more specific. There, in June 2020, a father and his 6-year-old daughter were out on the Delta River on a canoe. Unfortunately, the canoe overturned, sending them both into the water. The daughter was wearing a life vest and was quickly spotted by Officer Cole, who had gotten the call and deployed his Mavic 2 Enterprise Zoom from ashore. He captured the rescue of the girl and then moved over to the other adult in the water who was not wearing a life vest at the time. The current was pretty strong and so the individual drifted, but Officer Cole kept the drone above the individual, guiding the Antioch Fire Department's boat to the individual, and both got rescued that evening. Antioch Police is also a recipient of our COVID-19 disaster relief program, and because they have additional M2 Enterprise Zoom units available, Officer Cole had one with him in his patrol vehicle. Fantastic story indeed. Lastly, I would like to highlight a very new way of deploying drones, the drone as a first responder. Chula Vista Police, south of the city of San Diego, is part of the FAA IPP program, which allows them to deploy their drone from the top of the police station. The drone flies straight to the 911 location, arriving almost half of the times there first, before any ground units, on average 30 seconds or more before a ground unit arrives. That allows them to already stream live views from the incident to the headquarters and potentially escalate or de-escalate the situation. Over 700 times they were able to cancel ground units. That's fantastic resource management that not only saves time but also costs. Chula Vista will present here at AirWorks 2020, so look out for their presentation on the drone as a first responder. Thank you all for listening. It's a true pleasure to be here at the 4th annual AirWorks. I hope I was able to showcase how drones are such a big tool and force multiplier in public safety. And now I would like to hand it off to my colleague Cynthia Huang, who works on the energy side and really is going to outline the trends, the commercial applications, and the kind of leading entities in her area of expertise. Cynthia has not only built tremendously impactful partnerships, but created use case documentation and showcased the true ROI of this technology in energy, oil and gas, and other areas. Cynthia, take it away.
Thank you, Romeo. It's always exciting to hear about the public safety industry and the incredible ways that they are deploying drone technology to protect our communities and save lives. Drones have proven to be critical tools for our brave first responders, like Rich and his team over at Southern Manatee Fire and Rescue. But beyond that, drones are also playing an important part in assisting the many men and women in our nation who are working hard every day to keep our lights on and our infrastructure safe. During these recent unprecedented times, companies in vital industries like energy and construction are recognizing drones as an even more critical tool for their workers. Strained resources, impacted workflows, and new rules around social distancing and workplace density has challenged these long-standing and traditional industries to utilize new technology in order to continue their operations in a safe and conscientious manner. Specifically, when it comes to safety, we have often recognized drone technology's role in reducing the need for people to be placed in risky environments. When carrying out routine but necessary inspections, energy workers often find themselves high off the ground or in close proximity to hazardous substances. Drones help reduce the need for those scenarios, allowing inspectors to be safely on the ground and inspect assets from a safe distance away, making for safer work conditions. But with COVID-19, we have seen drones provide yet another layer to the safety dialogue. Drones allow workers to conduct necessary inspections without directly contacting or even being close to their fellow workers. Furthermore, the increased digitization of sites and assets allow inspectors and engineers to review and plan projects from the safety of a remote location instead of having to be on site and around other employees. All of these benefits, while they existed before COVID, are now sought after in an even more accelerated manner. The trend that we are seeing across multiple industries toward digitization of assets will provide even more advanced capabilities for enterprises as they increase their adoption of drone technology. This acceleration of adoption can best be seen in activity captured by DroneBase, a service provider that deploys the largest drone services network around the globe. During the initial spread of COVID-19, DroneBase saw a 30% jump in deployments as businesses turned to drones as a safer and more efficient way to continue their work. But we've also seen this demand extend beyond simply keeping regular business operations going. We've seen new and direct efforts using drones to mitigate against the impact of secondary events. Now, when we think of secondary events or secondary disasters, we may think of known after effects, such as a tsunami or a fire after an earthquake, or a large area losing power after a hurricane. And when we think of drones assisting during these secondary events, we may think of utilities using drones to inspect infrastructure for damage, or pulling lines to help restore power after a storm. But during COVID-19, we are seeing secondary effects and drone use cases that are new and very unique. One such example stems from the overwhelming of healthcare systems around the world. As hospitals quickly overfilled, the need for quick and efficient expansion of more hospital space has been necessary in countries around the world. For instance, in Argentina, private and public organizations had to come together on short notice to build 12 modular hospitals in the hardest hit areas. Construction companies use drone data to track progress and communicate with multiple contractors to keep their project on schedule and to coordinate the number of staff on site in an effort to reduce risk to their personnel. What we're seeing here then are all the important roles that drones have been able to play, from supporting public safety operations, as Romeo mentioned, to enabling the completion of urgent construction projects and assisting in utility inspections that in turn power the hospitals and essential businesses that we rely on. And while COVID has certainly sped up the realization of some of these values, we must also recognize the many industry leaders who have spent the past several years proving out drone workflows and establishing drone programs and best practices so that in a time of unexpected crisis, we have the foundation in place to rapidly increase the use of drones. In support of these industry leaders and their drone programs, DJI is proud to continue leading the industry with increasingly powerful drone solutions, including the launch earlier this year of our best enterprise platform yet, the Matrice 300. I won't get into too many details about this awesome new drone, but I do want to point out a few of the new smart features that have proven to be game changers for inspection-focused workflows. We launched the all-new AI Spot Check feature, where the onboard AI can recognize a previously identified subject of interest and automatically conduct a routine inspection to capture consistent and easily comparable data every single time. The M300 and new payloads also allows for a high-res grid photo, where you can frame and grid an area of interest, and the drone will automatically take a series of 20 megapixel pictures of each cell, capturing an incredible level of detail for review at a later time. And the laser rangefinder, which helps pilots know exactly how far they are from an asset or an obstacle, taking the guesswork out of safety and supporting optimized inspections. Launching these new features has definitely been exciting, especially because on the inspection side, we have heard so many great stories and case studies of drones providing value. We want to thank our many partners who have shared stories with us and have developed large, forward-thinking drone programs with comprehensive operating procedures, safety standards, and training programs. As some quick highlights, I want to share a little about the following companies that I have had the pleasure of working closely with over this past year. Ameren, a leading utility servicing customers in Missouri and in Illinois, has over 120 drones in their drone program and averages 100 takeoffs per day. Ameren's use of drones has grown exponentially since their program started in 2015, but has grown even more in the past few months due to COVID-19. They have deployed more drones into more inspection situations than before, as they believe drones to be the ultimate social distancing tool. Leadership has relied heavily on sending drones in to look at lines that typically would be easy to inspect by foot. This is all due to Ameren's desire to keep its customers and its workforce as socially distanced as possible. Another utility we have had the pleasure of working with, Baltimore Gas and Electric, a subsidiary of Exelon, shared with us that since the beginning of 2020, they have flown close to 500 missions, completing hundreds of inspections to ensure that their customers have reliable power during these challenging times. Recently, the Baltimore Gas and Electric drone team shared that they were able to use DJI drones to inspect almost 10 miles of distribution circuits that feed one of the major hospitals in their area, the Baltimore Washington Medical Center. Because of COVID restrictions, they chose to leverage drone resources instead of traditional inspection means. They found that drones actually yielded higher quality data that they could use to identify potential problems and ensure critical areas had reliable power. Yet another industry leader, Valmont Utility, shared that over the last 2 years, they have switched roughly 80% of their inspection work over to drones. And in testing DJI's latest solution, the M300 RTK and ZenMuse H20 payload, they estimated a 30% increase in efficiency for their team. These stats from Valmont really show just how powerful of a tool drones can be to keep essential workers safe and efficient. And as a final highlight, I am pleased to share about a new partnership that we have worked closely on developing since early 2019. This year, we are happy to welcome Shell as a solution development partner. Their innovative drone team has pushed the boundaries of what drones can do in the oil and gas industry, and today we are joined by Adam Serblowski, Shell's robotics team lead, who will share about the value of drones in oil and gas inspections and how Shell incorporates drones into their larger robotics strategy.
I'm Adam Serblowski, a robotics theme lead at Shell. In this role, I'm responsible for driving the adoption and replication of robotic technologies across Shell's global footprint. To do this, I work to provide tools and develop processes and remove roadblocks, which combined enables our assets to deploy drones and robotics. Today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how Shell is using drones. All right, before we get into it, I do need to flash this slide up on the screen. I won't read all the text. You can do that afterwards if you'd like. But essentially, it just says that I wouldn't make any investment decisions based on the information that I'm going to share with you today. All right, let's get into it then. So why is Shell interested in robotics? Well, across the industry, we believe there's an asset efficiency challenge. This is being driven by more complex operations, zero tolerance for HSE or environmental incidents, and less access to top talent. We believe that digitalization is going to help us tackle these challenges. It's going to allow us to be more efficient, it's going to allow us to be more profitable, and it's going to allow us to get to market quicker. And robotics is going to help us tackle the mobility aspect of this challenge. It's going to allow us to reduce our HSE exposure while automating the data collection for advanced analytics tools to provide proactive leak and corrosion monitoring, amongst other things. Looking at it another way then, robotics is about data as the primary value flow. Our goal is to better structure data from our various sources, be it a drone or an iPad or a sensor, and get it into the cloud, where we can apply analytics to create actionable insight. That actionable insight is going to allow us to make smarter decisions faster. And ultimately, that's where the value of the drones and robotics lies, is in that insight gathered from the data. Robotics themselves have no inherent value. It's the data gathered by those robots that generates value. Getting away from the generic picture then, how do we leverage drones more effectively in our business? Traditionally, we have third-party service providers come in and perform a mission or two and provide us with a specific deliverable. These missions tend to be ad hoc, as the drones are still viewed as a specialized tool as opposed to the commodity which they truly are. As such, we are advocating for our business to adopt drones into their day-to-day operations to augment the way people are doing their current jobs. To support this, though, we have to provide the tools and work processes which make this possible. The drones can still be flown by third parties or by our own internal programs, but we want to ensure that we've effectively integrated the drones into operations wherever it makes sense. Drones themselves are a critical but small part of the overall picture. We have to make sure that drones exist as a part of a larger end-to-end workflow, or else we won't be able to capture the full value of these platforms. Taking a look at the diagram then, we see something very similar to my previous slide. With information being gathered, pushed to the cloud, and analyzed before being acted upon. However, there are two specific differences that I want to highlight. The first is data standards. These are often overlooked as we tend to be more concerned with the deliverable than the underlying data. However, data standards are critical if we want to effectively manage the large volumes of data that drones generate. As such, standards will tell us how to name and store our data so that we can organize it and more effectively make use of it in the future. The second key component is automated flight control with pre-planned flights. These tools are already being used to support ad hoc missions, but we want to expand the concept to ensure that we have flight plans for each repetitive mission type that we perform. This will ultimately increase efficiency as we can plan once and fly many times, but it also drives replication as we can reuse flight plans on similar assets globally. Furthermore, automated flight control enables more consistent data collection, which is critical for the analytics components further down the workflow. On this slide then, you'll see what kind of activities our end-to-end workflow can enable. Unlike specialized platforms, we can apply drones to a whole host of activities across many parts of our operation. This is by no means a comprehensive list. We find that new use cases are continually being added by our new users. One of the powerful things about having a drone available is that it lowers the barrier to using them, and so that encourages our end users to continually apply the drone to new problems. It should also be noted that each item on this list is not a separate mission. Again, as these platforms are generic data collection platforms, we can potentially be covering multiple use cases within a single flight. For example, if we're inspecting a tank farm, we could use the data gathered from a single flight to do the visual inspection, an environmental inspection, and also a security round. This example shows how powerful drones are for improving efficiency in a site. Lastly, I wanted to talk about how drones are supporting remote working. Drones were initially used in industry to perform at-height inspections. Experts standing on the ground could now remotely inspect an object hundreds of feet away. As we've added data connectivity and data processing into our workflow, we've been able to push the experts further away from the object of interest, and today we're able to eliminate many expert site visits. Experts who would have needed to physically visit a site in the past are now able to access maps and models that are derived from the raw drone data to complete their specific workflow. In the event where more information is needed or real-time video is needed, video can be live streamed from the drone to the remote expert, who's also communicating to the pilot in real time, further eliminating the need for site travel. Improvements in autonomy and better data connectivity will lead to more frequent, repetitive flights, which will ultimately feed our digital twin and further reduce the need for expert site visits. And this brings our story full circle, once again discussing how drones are being used to collect data to feed our various digital tools. Drones are widely used in our industry today, and they're already generating value. As we see the level of autonomy increase, the integration with analytics tools improve, and integration with end-to-end workflows continue, we're only going to see the value of these platforms continue to grow with it. And with that, we've come to the end of my presentation. Thank you everyone for being with me today. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.
Thank you, Adam, for sharing those insights into your drone operations. We're excited to feature the great work that you and your team are doing at Shell. Before I close out our section about inspections and the amazing work that our communities have been doing to keep our infrastructure running smoothly during this pandemic, I would like to point any companies just getting started to our online drone program playbook. We've taken learnings from leading adopters across all industries to compile a playbook that your company can follow. Whether you are just starting on your drone journey or looking to scale out your drone program, this resource will be helpful for you. With that being said, I would like to pass it back to Brendan now to close out our Day 2 keynote.
Thank you, Cynthia, for your insights. And thank you, Adam from Shell, for sharing more about how and why you're using drone technologies. We hope the learnings shared can help other companies make the leap into scaling out their drone operations. What you've seen here today shows the very best the technology has to offer. And for those of us who have been in the industry for a while, it's gratifying to see that public perception is starting to reflect these benefits. The rising spotlight on drone technology that has come with the increased use during COVID-19 will define public perception of our technology. With upcoming policy changes that may dramatically shift the industry, perception of our technology will become increasingly important to keep legislators engaged with the industry and acknowledge the value of the industry that already exists. We see this becoming increasingly critical for DJI, but also for you, a drone pilot, a commercial pilot, a developer, a distributor, or more, as regulations may threaten or benefit us all. We'll dive deeper into this topic during tomorrow's keynote, where I'll discuss the challenges and next steps for the industry. In the meantime, Day 2 of AirWorks is ready to start. We have a packed day of breakout sessions and panels that we hope you can learn from, get inspiration, or meet your next business partner. Now we'll have a short break before the first round of breakout sessions begins. Thank you again for joining us at DJI AirWorks 2020.